Guys, intro time.
Wait, which intro?
The wisdom check.
Oh, good.
Wait, no. I thought we were keeping the old intro. What's wrong with the old one? People like that one.
It was too long.
Yeah.
Too many fucking gifs.
Yeah. But can we keep the part where I yell more?
No.
But it's the intro to end all intros.
I got like what? 2 lines last time?
Do you want more lines, Tim?
Well, no, not really.
In a world without answers.
Yeah.
Wait, you want to start with that?
Here we go, exactly like last time.
Wait, okay, so we're doing it the exact same way? Let's start with the smoky bar.
No. It's a new season. We have to have a new intro.
More.
Not sure why we thought this would go any differently.
Oh, well. Welcome, everyone, to the Wisdom Check, where Jeff and Dustin welcome a guest every week to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. Welcome.
This is ridiculous. I'm starting the stream now.
Wait, where's my die at? Well, we can't start until I botch, and it's not an intro unless I'm botching.
You're on.
Welcome.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Wisdom Check. I am Dustin, your host here tonight. With me over there on the other side of the screen is not a Jeff. No. Instead, tonight we have Tim, our player of Fulcrum from our Everstorm game, joining us here. So welcome to the show, Tim. And, of course, our guest of honor tonight is Tony from Audio Dungeon. So, Tony, say hi to everyone.
What's up, guys?
All right. As you can see, Tony's actually coming to us live from his set, it looks like. They actually just finished filming something. So what did you tell us a little bit about what you got going on there, Tony?
Dare we say without further ado?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Oh, man. We're already into the ados. That's...
They know. So, we're actually we're starting to expand our content. Our normal show is Audio Dungeon, which you guys are familiar with, on Wednesdays. And that is our homebrew 5th edition quest that we play. But right now, we're trying to do a show called Digital Dungeon, where we try to combine video games with tabletop. So I'm going to show you. Since I got people here, I told them they'll stay so you can say hello real quick. This
Okay.
is Taylor of Digital Dungeon. I'm not doing a good job showing her. This is Brooke.
Hello, Brooke.
Welcome.
There's Dan.
Hello.
There's Rob. Why is this so hard?
Say hi to the TTRpg, everybody. Hello.
I'm totally failing at showing people. Here's Scro.
Hey, Screw.
Hey, everybody.
And here's Phil from Digital Dungeon. You don't know yet, but you will.
Hello.
Whole gang's here. Excellent.
Just about, yeah. And then we have Percival Fairweather over here. Steve Keeley. You might know Steve from such things as the video switcher.
Oh, man.
Steve is an integral part of what we do here.
That's awesome.
Todd's gone. Yes, that's it. So we're all hanging out here in the studio. We just finished shooting.
That is fantastic.
That's
The
awesome.
setup. One of the main things we wanted to ask you about, and it's lucky for us that you're actually in there as we speak. It's an impressive setup you guys got going on there, and obviously it speaks to the name Audio Dungeon. We'd love to hear you talk a little bit about how that came to be, and just like your passion for the entire experience that you guys put out there.
Absolutely. So, I think like everybody else, you play Dungeons and Dragons or you play a tabletop, and you go, "Oh my God, this is funny," and people probably would enjoy this. So, a lot of us have backgrounds in music and acting and different things. So we wanted to try to bring it in front of other people. I have a business called Phoenix Studios, and we're in 21 years of business now. I started when I was very young, and it's most of what you're seeing right now. It's basically a production facility, and this is just the one room of it. But utilizing what I've done over the years in audio, engineering, and producing, and songwriting and such. I've now basically spearheaded this with the whole Audio Dungeon crew, which if you see behind me, I can switch the camera, which might be better. So this is the everybody's chilling out right now, but this is the set that we made. I'll let you see a little bit around what you don't see when you're watching the show.
That's impressive.
We had to figure out how to shoot the table, how to put the table together. Rather, we have the middle set up for any kind of. Right now, we have a board game on top of it, but we have a digital display there. We have underneath headsets that attach to every single person sitting on the side. When you come over here, you see the switcher. Basically, it's where Steve sits. So he has basically the whole switching over here to choose where he's going to go to live. Down here is the further controls for that. Then he has copies of the screens that I have because we stream to Twitch and we stream to Facebook and YouTube and Mixer on the other one. So
Wow,
he basically
that's
can help
incredible.
out because it's a lot for me to run sometimes.
Indeed.
Over here, what you can't see off the side is 3 screens, and this helps us get color tone and make sure everything's correct. The top one we use for what's live, right there. This is where we keep Scro. He's standing right there. We
Hey,
can't
Scro.
the other side, same thing. Each person has their own audio interface coming in from the side, which is probably hard to see. This is my setup. So what you're looking at right here is you see the streams. This is a copy of the stream you saw on the other side. This is, again, going to Facebook, YouTube, Mixer, and this is going to Twitch. On the other side, this is Fantasy Grounds, or I'll use it for a bunch of other stuff. This is the 80J. This is the American DJ grid that controls all the lighting. I also link in audio in there as well. So if I sit down and I mess with this, see the whole studio start changing color, going to red.
Oh, that's cool. You got like mood lighting going on in there.
Yeah, so the entire thing changes with it. Now you can't hear it now, but if I click one of these other ones, I have combos that could do audio and video. So I could turn it to like a cave. Like if I press this, if I press forest, for example, which is up here, it'll go green in the room, and then into everybody's headsets, they're hearing the forest, which is what you hear live also. And then
that is so
finally,
cool.
in front of me, you have the audio software, which is housed right next to me down here. So it records the audio onto here. The rest of the videos record onto the system. And basically, we're running through an interface for the monitoring, which is separate from what you guys hear. And then this is just XLR inputs to get everything going. In front of me, I usually keep the Facebook going. I have, in case they use the 10,000 items thing, I have it right in front of me. That's for the rod. So 10,000 different things can happen. So it's the list right there. This is everybody's levels. And then I usually keep Facebook open here as well.
That is crazy.
That is it. So it's the second keyboard right here. And there's more software that runs the switcher, the 810 switcher, which is Black Magic product. And then I'll show you something that no one's ever seen before. Here we go.
Oh man, we're getting exclusive now.
This is with Zelda. You would hear underneath. So what I did was I built a cavity. I don't know what you can see here. A cavity underneath that I can crawl into, which I have to do occasionally, is and just go through all the wiring and fix everything. There's a bunch of computers in there that are lining the sides, and you can crawl through like you're doing maintenance on it.
Oh, holy cow, that is awesome. And this is just like all in your basement, right? I mean, that's how this works, right? Like, you're like the rest of us. You're just playing from your basement. This is just your man cave. You man cave this whole thing up?
No, this isn't my basement. This is my business.
That's your business? Yeah, I know. We're just saying it's always
I
like...
wish it wasn't our basement.
Our tech guy is going to be so jealous when he sees this. He couldn't be here today, Clint can't. But when he comes in and sees that, he's going to start putting that in his basement. He's just going to start building, and it's just all going to be down there in like a week or so. He'll be like, oh, I have to have that now. Like, there's just no way. So
That's going to be stretch goals for him.
So that is amazing that your guys' setup. I mean, I think it's one of the things that people first notice if they come across your show is what this really high level of production quality that you have in the show. The tables, you can tell just from the lighting, everything that's going on, like that you guys have a very highly technical. Essentially it's a D&D studio. I mean, there's no other way to put it. It is completely a studio production. Like, it looks like one anyway. So. Yeah.
I definitely have to thank Richie Castellano, one of my good friends, and without him, I could never get to this point because he helps spearhead a lot of the lighting and the MIDI interface. He helps out with the audio, which he's also very good with. I combine his knowledge and my knowledge, and together we come with this. And I just realized I didn't show you my favorite toy. The coolest thing yet. You ready for this?
Please do, yes.
The Stream Deck.
Oh, the Stream Deck. Yes.
You have one?
Yeah, our tech guy does, yes. I don't.
Okay, yeah. So Stream Deck, for you don't know, it's actually little screens on here that you can change and customize, and you go through it. And when I do the show, basically I just go through here, and I can trigger everything, trigger maps, I can trigger audio files, I can trigger lighting, and things like that. This thing is fantastic. It's like $150. It is worth every penny. Definitely recommend it for any streamers out there.
Oh yeah, definitely for sure.
Really cool.
So, before you got into Audio Dungeon, if we go back to how did you get into the hobby just in general? Like, let's talk a little about your path from when you got started to Audio Dungeon. How did you get started in tabletop role playing games?
So I was 8 years old. My brother got me into it a little bit. He was playing, which he absolutely does not play now. And that's the last time he played. And also, I was playing with a friend. They had a dungeon master, this guy named Sean, and that was the first. I played once with my brother. Didn't really understand the game. I just knew I liked it. And then this guy played with a bunch of my friends. He was older. He was like a boyfriend dating my friend's cousin or something like that. They invited me to play. He was probably 18 years old at the time, and he's like jumping around the furniture and doing role play. And he's like, you're walking into a dungeon, and it felt like Final Fantasy and Dragon Warrior, which is the only thing I knew at the time. But I was in complete control of my character, and I absolutely fell in love with it, and immediately started dungeon mastering from there. And I never stopped. I've always been running a campaign, and the story that everyone's playing it now is the same story that started when I was 8 years old and still going on 30 years later, actually.
That's amazing.
Myself.
Yeah. So is this the same campaign world then that the Audio Dungeon game takes place in? Have you just continued to build that world?
Yeah, it's the evolution. Now the world has become a thing of the past, and now they're in like the future of what happens in that. You know, we're not ruining it because it'll ruin a lot. But yeah, it's everything that's going on. There's one episode where all their old characters are coming back in. Those are characters they played literally 20 years ago. They're still in the campaigns, or dead, or revived because of whatever reason happened. You know.
That's awesome. That sounds a lot like how our Everstorm game is set up. Our DM has been running the same world for 30 years. And so when we watch it, it's kind of interesting because we know all sorts of things from 30 years of lore that like we know our regular viewers don't understand. So do you get that a lot, like where people are like, I don't understand what's going on with something? Or do you get that? Because you interact with your chat quite a bit. So do you get a lot of questions from people that are trying to get in to understand what's going on when you have so much back history in your world?
Well, I'm very careful to put it in. So what I do is there's actually 3 D&D groups. There's a Sunday group, there's a group on Thursdays, and then there's Audio Dungeon that plays it on Wednesday. And there's a lot of other stories happening in the world. And when I bring people on, I make sure that they did not confuse the fan base. So they only they play what they're going to play. Like Taylor, who plays the Queen, who came in recently as a guest.
Yeah.
She knows so many things that she probably would confuse everybody because there's a lot of stuff that happened. But kind of like if you met a person in real life, you wouldn't tell them your whole story. You would be like, hey, what's up? And you might talk about something that's relevant. That's kind of what she does as well. There's one other time where the characters came in, and I basically had to give a video beforehand. I stopped. Everyone in the room didn't know what I was doing, and I cut to the video where I informed the entire audience about what's going on, that they're about to see all the characters they haven't seen since like 20 years. And then I cut back, and then I played the whole thing. And everyone had a really good time, and they enjoyed it. So I'm very careful about
yeah, you definitely think you have to be, because lose people really quick. I didn't realize that your world had that much history in it going back.
I was really impressed when I heard on your last show you had mentioned you had 3 separate games running, and I thought, like, man, the amount that really must do for you as a DM to flesh it out, to be juggling 3 games, let alone everything else you're already juggling in studio. It's I can see just there's the passion there is fantastic. And
I love it. I love role
what is it like to keep all that up in your head at the same time?
You know what? I think when I was younger, it used to be hard, and now it's more like second nature. It's kind of like me asking you about, like, I don't know, explain Earth to me, and you talk about Spain, you talk about France. I could talk to you about any parts of it because it's not just a note written on my thing. You know, I've thought about it so much and gone over it that it's like a real place.
Mm-hmm. That's incredible.
Yeah.
And so you went from groups at home with your brother, right? And then you moved and you had these other groups that you formed over time. Now, how many of those players then are in your current Audio Dungeon crew? Is it most of them you were saying?
So all of them in the Audio Dungeon crew are ones that I play with. Rob I played with since I was 8.
Okay.
Vinny I played with since I was for 20 years. Dan 20 years. Damien, 20 years. Brooke, we've known for a while. She's actually married to one of my best friends. But she just started playing. This is her first campaign playing with us. And Tom, I've played for about 20 years as well.
That's crazy.
But over the years, I played in tons of different groups as players. I DM'd a lot. I've always been DMing. And I've done it also on podcasts. I've done it also in comic book stores. I've also done 2 different Star Wars rule sets, superhero rule set, and then Dungeons & Dragons 2nd edition all the way up to 5th edition.
Okay, and have you stayed with the editions as they've kept up? Did you move to 3, to 3, 5, to 4?
I didn't like 4.
No.
I started 4, and then when I went to 4, I was doing what I usually do, is I create my own system. So right now, Audio Dungeon is flushing out. It's going into its own system soon, as we're breaking just a way into that slowly from going to the 5th edition brew. So
Okay.
that's commonly what I do if I'm not happy with the system.
So you're starting to homebrew a bit on
Yeah, I have
a whole new system, or just homebrewing 5e up to what you need it to be?
It's probably about like 5 out of 6 steps. That's not really say it. It's a big step away from 5th edition into a custom system.
Okay. And what's your aim? Oh, sorry.
During
go ahead.
during your game. Oh, no problem. I noticed you do like to take a lot of time during your games to kind of throw out things as you see fit, like to change the rules. And I like the aspect of one of the things that you were doing, for instance, was most DMs I see when it comes time for random chance to show up, like for instance in your last game when you had all the cannons firing on the tower, and you let the players basically make up the random element of that. Most DMs I know would like roll behind their screen and decide how many cannonballs hit. I enjoyed that you actually changed up the rules and had the party involved in that element.
Oh yeah, that's literally my favorite part about Dungeons & Dragons or any type of tabletop you play. So I wanted to. The story is ever changing, and I don't write the story out in a way that it's like this guy has to die. Like they got the Rook. I don't know if you saw that episode. This Rook was this bad guy, and they got him. And not only did they get him, that was I didn't plan for that to happen. But they also killed him, and I didn't plan for that to happen. Obviously, he had a lot of information. That's all gone. So the favorite thing about the game is the fact that they can change it dramatically, and I want to put it into their hands, and then also the audience will put it into their hands, because I feel like if you could watch TV and affect the TV show that you're watching and know that if this ever goes through a movie, an animation, or anything in the future that we keep building up to, that's amazing, because you'll be like, yeah, I contributed to that reroll, which allowed that guy to get killed and change the game completely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's amazing with all the stuff you're already juggling on that set, with all those screens, monitors, everything else. Like you're working like 3 jobs there DMing. Like DMing's already a tough job. Like you're doing all this on top of it, and you're interacting with the fans that are chiming in. Now are you seeing all the feeds from the various different medias? Because you guys are now streaming to like 3 or 4 medias. You were showing us some of the different screens. Are you getting those things patched into you? Because like when I watch your show, I can see a feed coming from somewhere, but I don't know which one of them it's feeding from. So
it's both. I have to watch both. I have to watch everything.
Wow.
I pass off as much as I can. So Steven, just sits next to me on the other side of the table. He can assist when I get if I get stuck. But other than that, I have to run the lighting. I can't pass the lighting off because I'm creating moods. It's like I'm a director.
Right. Yeah.
Besides the I guess the visual producer in a sense too. So I'm changing the lighting. I'm putting the music on for certain scenes. Steve can help out with audio, but if there's a main problem, I jump to the audio. When they're role playing, I'm paying attention, but I also will be adjusting something. I'll be reading the feed. It sounds like a lot, but I guess I'm so used to it that it's just I'm able to somehow pull it off or make it work.
Top tier multitasker is what I'd say.
That's impressive.
I am good at it. Yeah, I am bad at a lot of things, but this is just where I'm good at.
That's
awesome.
awesome.
How have you found reaching out to the audience? Because I do know a lot of streams, like that's not always their first instinct to do that. And one of the very first things that struck me watching you was how much the audience could potentially do. How have you found that once you added that into it, having game for 20 plus years now, how has that changed things for you now that you are adding that element in?
For me, so the audience loves it. They enjoy it, which completely makes us happy because we love the fact that they're playing and they're engaged. I love it because I feel like there's a sense of sometimes it'll come down to me, and then I have to make a decision and say like, okay, this might be a big decision. I'm either going to kill this person or save this person, and then I'm mad at myself because I don't want that power. I shouldn't have that power. I don't believe in that. So then you'll see me go, okay, it's up to the audience. What's going to happen? Do the elves stay and fight, which they did in Peliondaris in one of the battles? Or should they continue? When they couldn't decide to go after the Rook, I said, okay, it's up to the audience. It's perfect because you're literally in full control. I have, my power is limited like it should be.
That's awesome. So you were talking about getting into making your own system. What sorts of things is 5e not really doing for you that you're looking to adjust? Like, what things are you kind of going away from in 5e? What things are you heading towards in your system that you're wanting to kind of create?
Okay, so 5th edition, I'll start off by saying that 5e I think is great. I think they did a great job of the system, and I love it. 3 and 3.5 is basically like, wow, I love the system. I was okay with 2. I loved 3, 3.5. And then when 5th edition came around, I was like, good job, because they simplified it, a lot of things, and they got to the fun, which is exactly what I try to do. I try to keep things moving. I don't care. The rule book is there to facilitate the game, and not to cut back to the rule book and go, okay, what's going to happen here? If I told them, I says, guys, you're not allowed to open a book. It's not about what the game's about. It's about the story. It's about the flow.
Right.
And so what I've done is I've only gone after the things that I feel like I wanted to make it more realistic. So, for example, when you make your character, there's things with alignment that I feel like people don't follow enough. That they could follow more closely, or they pick an alignment and they kind of forget half about the alignment. They might say that, not especially for the obvious ones like lawful good, because that means they really want to play that. But when everybody plays chaotic good, they don't pay attention to the alignment at all. They don't do anything. So there's a lot of holes like that, I believe, everywhere that they can be picked up on. So I have a system that's in place that they will actually judge each other, being judged by your peers about what your alignment is, and you get experience for it. Did he act that way? He did. He gets experience for it. I create a system where when you create the character, I'm working on mods and not on the 1 through 18 system. So it's faster. If I extra your intelligence, I gotta go, it's 16 intelligence to read the mod. It's literally seconds, but I feel like I can save those seconds. So I go, what's your intelligence? 3. I add 3 into the thing. That's what it is. So the system is based around even easy numbers between -0 into pluses. And so that's a minor upgrade. So I make it so that you choose a character, you pick a job, and you go into, it could be that you spent the first part of your life as a farmer, like things that wouldn't happen naturally. You were born in the woods, so maybe you're more of a nomad. Maybe you're the town drunk, which is one of them in there. You know, you're not accomplishing much in life. Maybe you're a shopkeeper. Maybe you're a monk. Maybe you're the guard. Maybe you joined as a soldier. So I made it so like you would probably go into a 0-level character position, and then you would evolve into where you want to focus yourself. You get a +1 into your ability for the focus that you spend your time on. Maybe I'm a soldier, but I do a lot of reading, so I put my +1 to intelligence. So it makes it more real into the story. And then they go into the first level, which is character classes that last for so long. When they make requirements, they go into paths, which are higher level, like mastery classes. And then there's even a set of classes after that. So it's really trying to weave the story into the character more. But 5th edition did a great job. I'm very happy with 5th edition. I just wanted something the way I want to do it.
So you're really expanding on that background idea. Like in 5th edition, you pick those couple backgrounds and then you pick like your ideal bond. You're just kind of taking that and expanding that a bit to give it even more, and I guess a less random and more fleshed out, choice-oriented background system, it seems like, to kind of get you going. And then maybe more like a prestige class, something that you're taking from like the way 3.5 works is kind of what you're aiming for.
Right. And,
I really like to focus on character.
Yeah. I changed the spells, the spellcasters a lot. I made 4 or 5 types of spellcasters. I don't like the fact that a wizard can cast a necromancy spell. If you watch like other movies, Harry Potter, or watch anything else, when they cast like a spell, sometimes it's a really big deal. And so, like, I'll ask you guys a question. Do you guys play with spell components?
We do to a degree. Some things yes, some things no. It's always one of those things. It depends on what the spell is, because sometimes there's a spell where you look at the component, you're like, do you have a gem of 150 gold?
Exactly. So it's funny. See, I asked you the question. A part of you feels like, oh no, you got me. I'm doing something wrong. I should be playing with spell components. So that's the problem. I don't like that. So what I did was I made a thing where if you don't focus your spells, and you become like the generic wizard, you must use your spell components. It's just what it is. But you can attune your magic and use only slight thing. Like you can become an arcane knight, and you have spells based around battling. A geomancer, your spells are based around the elements and a couple of cool abilities. But you can also go into necromancy, and you can go into as a mind bender, and you have like psionicis kind of like abilities. And the idea is that a regular wizard should be able to just cast Fireball one day, and then have it go through a whole ritual. Like, I'm going to cast Clone, and I'm gonna do a dark spell and do a copy of myself. And some of these spells, even like Wish, they feel like they're too powerful because I I make the first mistake by removing the spell components,
Right.
and then I have to face the fact that they're just casting blindly other crazy things. So then if you try to say, okay, well, 6th level and above, you have to do spell components. It's almost like too hard at this point, because now they're going to derail from the story to go after a spell component, or I have to make it a part of the story to do that. So I just kind of flushed all that out to things to kind of make it, it's almost like I'm making the product for what's realistic for how we play.
And then what you end up with is shopping episodes. Where am I going to find this item? Where am I going to... And you can spend so much time... And it's already bad enough with them just looking for equipment. But when it comes down to figuring out the individual spell components, like, at that point, you just... That's a nuance I don't want to get into in my games. I can't imagine you want to take that kind of time in the middle of your game either.
Nope.
So.
Yeah, I spent, I think, 4 game sessions trying to think of a good way to go find a 150 gold gem with an undead eyeball in it. That took some time.
Exactly. I had a session where they went to this place like very far into the middle of the planet, and they shopped for 2 sessions, 2 4-hour sessions. They shopped, and I said, like, guys, we've been shopping for 8 hours in a fictional world about stuff that doesn't matter. Like, it's insane. It's crazy. So
and then something like polymorph, which is stupid, ridiculously powerful. It's like a cocoon. And you're like, well, I'm a druid. I can have those probably in a moment. Like, no problem. Here, let me just grab a bunch of cocoons to go. Like, it's no big deal.
Right.
Then, other things. It's like, hey, get some crushed diamond dust. You're like, all right, well, that's going to be a while. So, it's totally understand why you wouldn't want to have to deal with some of those things. But it is interesting how that has always been there as part of the counterbalance for certain magics. And I can totally see where people that's one of the things that I think unanimously people just always disregard completely.
Oh, I see it happen all the time.
It's a catch-22, because you start the quest, you're like, it would be cool if you play with spell component. Because there's an idea of it, you're like, okay, he's going to get back Guano to cast his spell, to get Fireball, and, sand and this. And those things are easy to gotten, but the second you go past those easy things, everybody's like, I don't want to do it anymore. So that's just the problem with it. So,
so that's interesting. I think that... it's interesting to see what things that you are taking kind of from your history with 3.5 and kind of adding it then layered onto the way that something like 5e already works, with a background system that sounds something more like from a Dungeon Crawl Classics or some of these other games where you have this like 0 level profession guy who just gets a plus to whatever it is that might apply to that profession, and going with that sort of an interesting route. And when I see, like when I watch your show and I see you guys do all these like little mini games and stuff that you like to do ahead of time, that's just completely improv. Just one little quick die roll, is it a this or that? And then boom, you're off running with whatever it is they're doing. And so it's interesting because I would have thought you would be headed maybe more rules light with it. And in some ways you kind of are, but in other ways, like you're kind of adding in this other layer of what you're dealing with there also, which is kind of cool. So
yeah, it's macro ways to handle macro situations. So, if they're doing the cannon towers or firing back and forth, I used to play all those out, and it's ridiculous. It goes on forever, and you can't do it. And so, for the show, I just kept condensing and figuring out what's fun. And you know what? It makes that whole huge battle of watching us roll, which is not fun to watch people roll dice, into a thing where you get instant gratification because it affects the game. We go around a table, I keep a couple of stats, and also the battle, when you think about it, still works out in rounds. It still feels alive and interesting, and I can go back and picture the whole battles in my head. So for me, it works.
Now, has having an audience changed the way that you approach those things? Has this come about from having an audience that you're interacting with every week?
I've always abridged it. Everybody knows me for the way I play. This is the way I play. It's the same. It's the same way of when I was doing it outside the room. Outside the audio dungeon and on audio dungeon. I've always tried to abridge it, keep story flow going. I play with dungeon masters just sitting there looking at the book for 10 minutes, like sitting there trying to figure out what's next, and I think that's no good. So I've always tried to play it fast, keep it moving. Never want to stop the pace for rules. I'll count down people when they start, do whatever. I give them 6 seconds because that's a round, and just keep it going fast. When we started, I tried to change it. I thought maybe people wouldn't like it, and then I just tried one way. I tried another way, and then I ended on the way I feel natural because that's what people like the best. So I didn't have to change anything, luckily for me.
I think it's safe to say that there's different people out there who like different styles of game. Some like crunchier mechanics, some like the X's and O's, some are more geared towards the narrative and role play. So do you feel like there's a certain style of fan that has flocked to your game? Because I mean, from what I understand, you're doing pretty well, which is on Facebook, actually, of all places, like not somewhere you think of it when you think of streaming. So how has that worked out for you? Do you feel like Facebook has has been great for you as far as growing your audience?
Yeah, we blossomed on Facebook. We're up to average about like 30,000 a week on the viewership for the videos. And Facebook has been very supportive. The people on it have been great. And I don't know if I see any certain type of person. I can't see that. The people who are really get into the rules, I guess, were the ones that'll come up with a lot of very, very complex ideas, and like they're good players. They'll say, "Oh, you can use this spell with that spell," and I think that's where they're getting that satisfaction. You know, they don't need me to say, "Okay, you're gonna do this and that." They just need the ideas. They need to work the ideas, and happily enough, yeah, that can work because you're using the rules. And the ones that want to watch the story, they just watch the story and they enjoy it. And they don't really, worry about the rules too much.
Right, and I think even in the most recent episode when we were watching it, like the people who were throwing in ideas of how your group was going to take care of that giant wizard tower thing, which we can talk a bit about here in a minute. We'll get into some of the meat of what's been going on in your game here and a little away from some of the technical stuff. But you could see when the audience was participating and they were chiming in with ideas. You had everything from essentially Spider-Man's quote from the Avengers about how to take down Ant-Man, right? Like, I saw this thing in this really old movie where we should totally tie the legs together,
make it dance, sweep the leg.
Other people were like, make it walk over dimension door into some primeval realm. Like, you had all these ideas coming in. So you could see there's definitely, I think, somewhat the people interacting come from both camps for sure. I mean, that's...
Yep. There's also Otto's Irresistible Dance, which I thought was wonderful.
Yeah, that was a great idea.
That one. The idea in my head of what this thing looks like as you were describing it and then seeing it trying to dance it was priceless when I was watching that as well. I was like, oh, that'd be great. I have a feeling, unfortunately, that came too early in the decision-making process. I'll forget about it by the time.
Got thrown out too early. It's like, we'll come back to that one, maybe.
Your group is like our group and any other group. 90% of a session is just trying to figure out what we're going to do and 10% actually doing it. So it's...
You know what it is, which also is the best part of tabletop, is that a lot of the groups don't excel at leadership. People are not making plans, or when they plan in every direction, and then they're kind of left, stunted with what to do. But the mistakes and the weird ideas are what makes everything great. Like a flawed character or a flawed situation only makes the game even better and better. So, especially with this group, so there'll always be probably a good game.
Excellent. And the first thing I want to ask you about, Dustin mentioned it earlier, your mini games that you start some of your sessions with. It's not something I'd ever done for D&D, but with a theater background, immediately it kind of like was a warm up. That sounds like a great idea. Is that something you've always kind of done, or is this more of a recent development for you for adding in these like kind of little mini games to get everybody in the mood for game? So
we play tested our show from May of 2018 into October of 2018, and in that time we knew we were playing Dungeons and Dragons, and I wanted everybody to get easy to talk to each other, and because you know what happens when you go on camera, you change because you start acting like different for the camera. You try to act in a way you think is correct, and then when you finally get comfortable, you return back to yourself, and then you make that last adjustment to be good on camera, which is like a whole process for actors. So I want everybody to go through that, and myself too. And while we were doing that, we play tested all these different games. We do Riddles in the Dark, Escape the Dungeon, even another game called Super Zeros, which we don't do on Wednesdays, but we do play. And a lot of us have loved improv games, and that was just a natural thing to put us in there and kind of warm up the crowd with it a bit. But actually, recently we just changed over because both have done very well, and they're becoming very notable. So it's actually, in a sense, become such a big difference between some people just want the D&D and some people love it. They all like the games. They all like D&D. They all like everything. But for the reasons of us trying to just make it simplified for the audience, we actually just removed the games. We're going to put them in their own show, and then we're going to be playing Dungeons and Dragons, simply going up. But we wanted people to feel our personalities. We want people to get to know us, and the games definitely do that.
Yeah, I think that is for sure. And it's what's interesting is like when you do like the bag, where they reach in and everybody at the table has put in the good and the bad items. So everything getting pulled out isn't coming from you. It's coming from the other players at the table as well. So it's a really interesting dynamic to see like what they will and won't throw into that bag every time they get an opportunity as well. Because you just never know.
One week, Damien put in a rocket launcher on the Christmas episode. And so like, the bad guy had I think it was Robot Santa Claus, played by Rob, came out and just killed Tom. And he had a rocket. I turned to Davey in the stream. I go, "You put a rocket launcher in there? Like, it's over. Like, what can we do here?" And it ended. That was the shortest running one we've had. We're ended in 3 seconds. You know, so it's you definitely don't know what the hell they're gonna do.
No, I think my favorite one was the one where he pulled out a sword and it was voiced by one of the other people who had nothing to do with the card. So he had to pull the sword and it was voiced by somebody else. I was like, that's fantastic. Like that's great right there. Like it's got like even more people involved in this thing just going right from the get go. So there were just little things like that. So for people who are watching, if you haven't checked it out, like these things are fantastic and they're just so quick and fast paced and just full of improv. And I think it really does showcase, I guess, really kind of what you guys are capable of at the speed at which you can play the game, even with this very rules light sort of side system that you've created for it, and it all plays out very well, I think, for what it is. It's a nice warm up game just to get ready to go. And then switch over to something like the Riddles in the Dark, where you put up a situation and it's kind of almost like playing 20 questions, only they're not limited to 20. Some of them can go on for a while as they try to piece together what it is. Like, do you write all those yourself?
No, I don't. That's actually written by Tom Kokoza. He writes them all, I believe, on his way to work every day. that he brings them in on Wednesdays. And that's always been his bread and butter. He's always good at doing puzzles, riddles, mysteries. And I told him right away, I said, Tom, this is an idea for a game I have, and absolutely 100% you should be making them up and running it. So that's the show that he hosts, and he does an excellent job. So
those used to air at the beginning of your show. Now you're saying those are going to be a separate thing that'll air in their own time and place, and then your actual D&D game that you're running will be its own thing on Wednesdays. Is that correct? Are the minigames going to appear at a different time, like on a different date, or just ahead of time, or?
So in a lot of things are changing. We've had a couple of people approach us about the show due to what the show's been doing, and it's going to change everything in a big way that I'm not allowed to talk about just yet. But it'll be probably in the next few months is when people will see it. And because of that, we're making changes, but for the good. So we'll probably just be playing Dungeons and Dragons. We eventually down the road will do a game where it'll just be a show where it'll just be all the mini games. And we'll cycle through it and have a lot of fun with the audience. But for now, they'll be appearing in a different way through everything that we're doing.
Okay. All right. So let's go ahead then. We'll move into a little on your 5e game that you have running. So give us a little recap of what's kind of going on story-wise, and we'll kind of get into a little bit about some of the things going on in your world at the moment.
You're into season 2 now of your current campaign, right?
Yes. We just did season 2, episode 13, which is called The Walking Tower. And so basically the world is a world of Andaria, and in the world of Andaria there are ancients. There are 8 of them, and the ancients are the gods, and the ancients are known to exist, and they interact with mortals, and they might interact with mortals, or if they really want to, they can wish away a mortal like a Thanos style and get rid of them in a second. So in this world, there's already been a huge celestial war because the ancients, being siblings, have basically just fought with each other and basically drew the whole world into it because they created all the mortals to fight the proxy wars for them and such. And they call that the First Celestial War. Now this quest takes place on the beginning of what it looks like is the Second Celestial War. And it's basically, out of the 8, there's 2, the Archmage and the Queen, that are basically now versus the other ones. And the group basically met each other in a city called the Sunken City on the first episode, and they are kind of roped in, as many Dungeons and Dragons or any tabletop games play. They are roped into a elaborate full quest, and that led them all the way into the underground, into hell of Andaria, into the core of the planet, and out again, and all to find this rod that they know was very powerful. And now they have, in the second season, they've gotten the rod, brought it back to safety, and literally brought it to one of the strongest city that is still holding in the world, the Red City, and it's under siege for the first time by the Archmage on one side and the Queen the other. That's the overall arc of what's happening now.
Okay, so the finding the rod was all of season 1. If you were to go back and watch season 1, that's the kind of quest you would see going on through season 1, was to kind of end up with this rod.
Yeah, there's the first half, which is episodes 1 through 10, and that's basically them in the Sunken City. They should it's another great example of them. They should have been out. I planned for them to be out of that city, and they stupidly got caught and went back in the city. These are guys who played tabletop for 20 years, and they got caught like it's their first day. And so then they the first 10 episodes is all in the city, and then they decide to go down. So episodes 11 through 24 is basically them going after the rod because oops, they lost it. So
oh man, and that's not something you want to lose either. You kind of hinted in the last episode kind of what that thing can do, so it's definitely not an item you want to go missing. It's
right. It has I have a whole list of capabilities that it can do, none of which just scratch the surface, and they're not even paying attention to try to activate it because they're not even thinking about that. They play with like tunnel vision like this, and that's why the audience is great too, because the audience comes up with ideas, and the audience says it, and I go, yes, it's exactly what you should do, and they're just like so focused on these very particular things, and I think that's just because they're playing in front of old people and they're getting nervous or they're
Yeah, I've always attributed to that, or the I like to call it the one ring effect of our current society, where if you present anybody with a familiar knowledge of the one wing or anything like that with a magic item of immense power, it's like, well, we definitely shouldn't use it. I feel like it's the first instinct that a lot of people get.
Yeah,
and sometimes maybe might be fun too.
The cool thing is I've utilized the list online, and I did a couple of changes to it, but it's the Rod of Wonder that somebody created. And it has 10,000 different things. I thought it was wonderful, and I've been using that. And it's great because nothing can happen, something wonderful can happen, or the most terrible thing that can happen. And I'll give you a little insight. In one of the episodes, I don't think anyone knows in game what happened, but the loot, they used it on him, and he disappeared, and in his place was a plant. And so they were convinced that the loot became the plant. But what happened was, the nearest plant and loot switched positions. So the plant was back in the city nearby, and because they're all in rock and cavernous terrain, and loot was there, so he teleported back to the city. A plant went in the spot, and they just started attacking the plant, thinking that it was him, trying to kill him and everything else. So that's why it's just wonderful. You don't know what's going to happen when you use it.
That's crazy. So you said 10,000 things it can go on there. That's like a wild magic like dream right there. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Let's keep that item out of the hands of our own dungeon master.
Our dungeon master loves wild magic. He's not allowed to know about this thing, so don't.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I love it. I used to, back in second edition, you had the wild magic surge, and it was 100 things, and that was pretty cool. And I saw someone made 10,000. I was like, oh no, it definitely has to be in the game. It's amazing.
Wow.
The only thing I will not put in the game is a deck of many things. I have ruled it out completely. Is never going to a quest, because every single quest, even when it goes well, ruins the game. So no longer.
Okay, so
you would
no
not be
deck
the
of
first
many
person
things.
to express that. Yeah, about the deck of many things.
Yep.
That is interesting. So, wow, it would be hard to imagine that with 10,000 things possible. Like that's an incredible amount of on your feet having to think about what goes down when they decide to pull this thing out. Like, so do you get that moment of like, uh-oh, they're going to use this thing. What's it going to do? Or is it like, do you get a moment of excitement right before they pull something like that out to use it? Like,
you can't mess me up. You can't mess the game up. I'm excited. Always excited. There's a couple of times that I kind of feign disappointment. It makes them happier too when they feel like they beat me. So they're like, and sometimes they do in a way, because they killed the bad guy, or Vinny got a sword he shouldn't have gotten one time. I was like, okay, you just took a plot line from like 10 levels in the future right now, and you brought it forward. So I'm like, but I'm happy he did it, because you're making the game, something unique and something different. But unpredictability is always good. I'm happy for it. So
yeah, I could tell.
Either of you have a die in front of you?
I do. I have a whole bag of them here. I have to open them up, but I got them.
Okay, so let's see. Both you roll. Let's see. I think it's 3D. No, you have to do 4. Yeah, so 4d10 each of you. We're gonna see what's gonna happen to you.
All right.
Go ahead and go first here, Tam. I'm digging through to find all my D10s.
Yeah, I think I got it. Here's my D10. Let's find out. 4 D10s. Let's see.
So we'll say that each of you are attacking each other with the same magical wand, and this is what happens.
It's a total of 15 for me.
You rolled 0015?
I rolled a 2, a 5, a 4, and a 4.
2, 5, 4, 4. Okay.
I got a total of 21.
A total? No, don't add it together. It's
Yeah,
a
so-
4-digit number.
Oh, you need the numbers. Okay,
4-digit
hold on.
number, yeah.
It's at 10,000. Yeah.
Oh,
So-
yeah. Okay, never
We do
mind.
that.
That makes sense now that you say it. I see what you're doing here. Okay, so
So now it's 2544. Let me do that one first.
Yeah.
so 5, 3, 6, 7.
5367 2544. Let's see, almost there. Each day, caster wakes with several new and disturbing scars.
Sounds on brand for one of my characters.
That's
So
awesome.
that would happen to you. And what was yours? 5367.
Yeah.
5367.
Please say I get a
5, 3,
bottle
6.
room.
Target can teleport at will, but is 50% likely to die in arrival.
Oh yeah. See, no, that is totally something I'd use, and I'd use it every game. It's totally
You
the
would.
case. So that's amazing. It's almost like this thing knows.
It knows what you like. It's a living, breathing thing. So let's give credit to the person who created it.
Yeah.
Absolutely did a great job, and I'm sure they'll be appreciated that people are using it. Let's get to the top here. It is the Net Lirum of Random Magical Effects version 2.0 by Oryx, Orrex. Yeah, so he did a great job, and it's a fantastic thing to use.
That is incredible.
Thanks for taking us on that ride. That was amazing.
So let's talk a little bit about this Archmage threat that they dealt with a lot last session. It's a walking tower was the name of the session, and let's talk a little about your tower. So this is a giant, it's literally a walking tower that they just ride around in. The Archmage and his crew.
I like your description
Yeah.
of a hornet's nest of angry mages.
Yeah, right, exactly. So it's more of like it looks like a fortress of a tower, like coming in and just coming up to the large tower. It's huge. It's not just the one tower and then the ground and the legs. Imagine it's like the picture from the Dragonlance novels when you see like the floating citadel. So imagine it looks like a citadel and going up to that large tower, and it has like earth on the bottom of it, and then out of the earth is the beast legs coming out of it. So there's a large city called Solst. In all the 3 campaigns we play, a couple of different groups have gone into Solst for different missions at different times. Obviously, it's the enemy city, and it's all wizards everywhere. Magic is obviously extremely common. It's everywhere in there. And they've always failed, lost a player, and it's always been bad. And it's not that I'm designing it so hard, it's just that it is hard by nature, and it's just, how it's working out. So now, what happens is, in the game, in a lot of the side missions, which hasn't really become apparent too much in Oi Dungeon, is what the wizards trying to do is the wizards have a monopoly on teleporting. The only person that can teleport is Tomb Mage, which is the one guy on the good guy side in the Red City, and he's been in the game so far for the last 3 or 4 sessions. Other than him, they teleport, and if you cast a spell at 5th level or higher, they will teleport to your thing, almost like a Navy SEAL team waiting to come get you because they don't want anybody doing it. And besides that, to strengthen the teleportation, instead of just sending one person at a time, they try to create these nodes. And the nodes are made of all these crystals around the area, and if they set them up somewhere, they can freely just open a portal and just start running mages through it. So they've tried to set up a couple, and the players in the groups have stopped them actually both times. So it didn't change that. That didn't happen in the game. But the one node they have is in this walking tower, which usually is sitting in the giant lake right near the city of Solst. But only in this after a year and a half of play, has walked over for the first time to the Red City. And it's pretty bad because if there's about 3,000 wizards inside, they could tunnel literally all of their wizards throughout in a second. So it's pretty menacing.
Yeah, that's
is
terrifying.
Crazy, yeah. Now, just out of curiosity, I think we actually got a little bit of a glimpse of when you were showing us your setup. Are they playing with an actual map? Because it seems like it's all very theater of the mind, but I saw you do actually have a map, which I honestly, from watching your show, I didn't think you guys actually probably used.
Oh yeah, it's there. I'll show it to you now. It's on the screen. Okay, so this is the world map.
Oh, cool.
Now this is everything above. So over here is where we are right now in the Red City.
Okay.
This is the sunken city where they started the game. It then went down into the ground and went into the underground, which is this map.
Excellent transition.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So they went down to here. They traveled all the way over to the tree, and then they went into the core, which is a whole other map, which I'll have right here. And they went into basically hell. They came back up to the tree and traveled another way back to where that opening was to go up, and then they traveled from basically around here when they came out and traveled up to the Red City, and now they have that battle on the east and the west of the Red City there. But the map is all done. This is the entire known world, and there's a lot of crazy things in here that have been played on the side quests and talked about in some cases. But we haven't even scratched the surface of the entire quest, so it's should be a wild ride to see where they go.
So now you don't put all three of you run 3 games simultaneously in this setting, but only one of them is the one that you actually put on out to the viewing public. And I was just curious as to what makes you want to continue those side games. Is it just fun for you to kind of flesh out the world some more, or you just can't get enough of it?
It's exactly why, because I like to flesh out the story. So I write a lot. I know everybody's reactions. I know how characters are going to react. I know how the politics are going to react to different things that happen. But the things that happen in the story, a lot of them are made by players. The fact that the tree was dying was something I set up, and one of the players did something that started causing it to happen. And therefore, I evolved the story into what was happening around that. And I feel like that kind of play style always makes the best things happen, because it's real. And it's what would have happened. And I find that when you can follow that organic living thing of the story arc moving forward, that makes it the best story. And then all it does is affect the story that I had created. Now that this happened, it made these people stronger or less strong, or now monsters are here, or now dragons come back, or whatever. So I'm constantly fleshing out the world in different ways around the main story.
So it was interesting when you were pointing out the path that your heroes on the Audio Dungeon game that we see on Wednesdays, where they have traveled through. And it really is just a tiny corner of the map, which I think is pretty usual for a campaign. They don't usually cover tons of the map. Are your other games that closely linked to where they're at, or are they on the other side of the world, or?
So no, they're close. They're so on the map, I would put it right here. So there was in the Red City that we were playing. There was one group that was there in the Red City. And then the Audio Dungeon was in the sunken city at the time. Then they chose to go down underground instead of traveling to either the Red City or all the way to the Elven Kingdom over here. They were supposed to do that, but they got caught and therefore went back to the sunken city. So they went down. The second group was in the Red City, and the other group was in the Elven Realm over here. So
Okay.
Over time, to give you the quick answer, is Audio Dungeon went down, came back up, went to the Red City. The Elven group. The Elven realm got destroyed. They then went to the Red City, the only place left, because the dwarves went down like they always do. That's what dwarves do in Lord of the Rings and everywhere else in the world. And then the other group is in the Red City the whole time doing missions, working as like a squad, like a fire team. And there was one time on one episode where everybody was in the same place, and so I had to be very careful. So
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, is how careful you have to be with these 3 groups, because you, like you said, you already, when you give players agency, you already don't know what they're really going to do. They can turn left when you think they're going to turn right. And so by having different games that run on different nights in that close of proximity, you don't know if they're going to take that wrong turn down the alley and accidentally go right where the other ones technically are at. So how do you deal with that timeline wise? Is it always a overlapping timeline between the games each week?
it's going to sound like witchcraft. So what I do sometimes is I kind of know what they're going to do. Sometimes they'll throw me for loops plenty of times. But in like the larger arcs, I kind of have a sense of what's going to happen. So like I knew what was going to happen. So for example, no one knew who the Red Wizard was, and when they were in hell, this guy was walking around. But the other group didn't know that they were actually watching the future, and it's going to happen in a couple of days with the NPC wizard that was next to them. Because I knew what they were going to do, because there's no way they could resist checking out hell and going down there. And then I even made a roll right in front of them. I kind of trust fate a lot. And I rolled in front of them. The guy rolled like a 3 on his save, and he got possessed by Dragano, and he became the bad guy, and therefore... And Taylor, who was in that quest, she goes, wait, so you didn't make me do that. How did you know that he was going to go down there? I was like, I just kind of I figured you would bring him down there. Like, I knew you would make that move. She's like, but how did you know I was going to make that move? I was like, I just figured that you would make it. So sometimes I kind of just work it together because I think it's going to happen. And when the other time I told you when they were all together, one group was heading into the city, one group was going out of the city, and one group was like right above passing it. So there's a couple times where you would see me say, "Oh, Jacques walks over and he stays behind," which he does in the episode. He stays behind because he had to go see the other group. So I already role played it. So I did that. And a couple times in the side quests, they'll be like, I'll be like, okay, you go over here and you see a battle happening. And the battle already happened, but the battle I know is very far advanced them, and if they go into it, they're going to die, and they kind of know that. So they don't go in the battle, and they're like, well, did that change anything? I was like, just do what you're going to do. Whatever you want to get involved in the battle, do it. So they don't. And I go, okay, now the battle happens. They're like, well, is that how it happened? I go, yeah, it's exactly how it happened. You didn't get involved. So it works out, because certain things you can kind of guess. And I know how each one of them is going to play certain ways. In the very first episode, I made a whole list because they didn't think I could do it. And I made a list of about 10 different things that I thought they were going to do by the first day. I said, you're going to do this, 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 and this. And Dan was like, there's no way you're going to guess that. And I was like, I bet you I get most of them, if not all of them. And so I did it. And down to the last one, which was the worst, but also the hardest one to get, which they said, like, oh, how are we going to get out of the city? And I said, you're going to go to the top right of the map, and you're going to slip out along the beach. Like a very weird thing to say because they could have gone 1,000 different ways, different plans, and it's exactly what they did. And Dan, before he opens it up, he goes, "Well, you definitely didn't get this one." And I go, "Check it out," and he does it, and he goes, "Holy!" He's like, "How would you know that?" And I was like, "Because I just know what you're gonna do." Years and years of playing with the same people, right? You figure that out.
20 years plus.
I can tell a lot of times in our game what the other guys are going to do because we've been playing together for so long. Like I can totally see as a DM how you could do that with your group.
It's like anyone who's done anything for 30 years and then you watch them work in their crafts and you'll see amazing things that'll blow you away. So 30 years, I know you're going to go on the edge of the map. You're going to sneak out around because you think it's clever and you think you're getting over on something and you follow the story. I know they have to stop here. I know they're going to want to stop here, and then I know that's probably the logical thing they're going to do. So. That's just what it is. You just watch you bringing the story forward.
That's amazing. So with you have this super detailed world, and you have a beautiful looking world map there. And it sounds like you're even working towards your own system. Can we look forward to something like an audio dungeon setting book and an audio dungeon like system? Is this something that you're headed towards maybe as you move along?
We have a lot of things in the works, and one of them is absolutely our own system, which we're going towards right now. And I keep building it slowly, so I don't want to just rush it and get there. I want to be play testing it live as we're doing it. You guys won't even notice it, or people won't notice it too much. But I'm actually play testing that system and going forward. I've already done 2 iterations. Now it's going to be the 3rd iteration of it. It's going to be a respec for them. They're going to do it. And then it'll lead to the book, which it's probably won't be out till the next year, maybe 2021. But we have games working on right now. I have a couple people working on a game, and then we're working on a whole another project that's coming up. So right now it's just expanding the world, expanding the show, other shows coming up, and just a lot of really cool, fun ideas when they come into play, I think. So.
Well, that'd be super cool. So we could maybe another year see an audio dungeon tabletop role-playing game. Oh, hey, we got some people I need to ban here from the chat real quick.
Oh,
there we go. And I don't know if they got him or not. Air Laser, are you there?
The internet has struck once again.
Good work, Jeff. I know you can't be here to host today, but at least you're helping moderate our chat. So you probably never get anything like that happen where you get trolls come in and start trying to light up your chat rooms. Or are they pretty well moderated?
We have 2 moderators that are on it. Every once in a while, someone comes in. Luckily, we were defended by the fans a few times, so that was nice to see. But,
it was nice to see.
Yeah, nothing too bad though. No.
That's good. Yeah. So with you having a campaign book coming out or anything like that, is there any live shows you guys have that you're planning on doing, putting yourself out in front of your audience? I know you're so big into audience participation. Have you put any thought into getting out in front of people in a physical sense and maybe doing some audience participation live? Something you ever considered?
So we're looking into Patreon. Patreon is the next thing that we're going to be putting out eventually soon, and we want to be able to go out there and bring the show around anywhere we can travel, which we would love to do. We just got to get the funds to do it. And so when we can build up on Patreon, we can build up any kind of supplemental ways to create income for the show. We're going to start bringing out more and more to where we're traveling around like a touring band and go around and play live in front of an audience. I can't. That's literally the win for me. When we do that, I'm fully happy. I'm very excited.
That's a lot of equipment to have to drag with you. You need like a mobile like what the news crews use to like make to travel around with you.
Command center.
Yeah, I come from a background of playing shows and bringing a lot of equipment. It's exactly like that. No different. I probably miniaturize the screens as much as I can, but it'll be a bit of a travel. Yeah.
That would be interesting to see someone try to do, just to be rolling in town to town and setting up shop for a D&D style game. Whether it's your own or if you're still playing 5e at that point.
Cross country D&D.
Cross country D&D.
2020, man. That's what we're up to. Dungeons and Dragons is going on the road.
The next step for the hobby is to get just a full production studio show where it's get one of the stations to actually put it on there like a reality show for D&D right at this point. Like, you guys be the first one, they just follow you around all the time, be like, come on, we're going to go show you what's going on back here now. Like, just I think that's the only thing we're lacking at this point in the hobby, right?
You're not too far off from what we're doing.
No, not really.
Yeah,
okay.
Not a reality show right now, but you're close. So
we're getting there, huh? Okay.
We're in that direction right now, yeah.
That would be fantastic. I mean, I really think it is kind of the next step of where we're headed with the hobby. It's amazing how it's changed so much, and I'm sure you've seen these changes a lot as well. Like, we always talk here about how, like, when I was younger, like, you never told me when you played D&D. It was something that you and the small group of people who did it, and you tried everything you could to make sure nobody knew you had anything to do with it at all. And we got more trolls coming into the chat. Jeff will get it, I'm sure. Luckily, I don't think you're actually following the chat here. I mean, it's a mess today. Yeah, it's a mess today for some reason. So I don't know why we're attracting all the trolls today, but we're getting them. So anyway, so other than making your own system, is there other styles of games that you like to run besides fantasy, or do you like to stick purely with fantasy games?
Sci-fi and fantasy are my favorites.
You mentioned Star Wars, right? You'd done a few of those.
Yeah, I've done Star Wars. I had a lot of great quests for Star Wars with a bunch of people, and those are always a lot of fun. Star Wars is great because it brings in the element of the ship, and that is a lot. And I'm not even just talking about the fact of the actual space combat, which is awesome, but the fact that there's so much to do on a ship really adds a lot, and it adds a lot of story. And the fact the ship feels like a home for them, and they're kind of like taking that home wherever they go. It adds just like this whole other element that is not in Dungeons and Dragons. Normally at least, and that's a lot of fun. So plus the Force is just a cool thing to really add on to as well.
Oh yeah, I've always had a big passion for both fantasy and sci-fi, and I just kind of view Star Wars as a big slurry of both of them. So it's an awesome setting to get into and get involved with. So are you coming up?
I was paying attention. I was having to delete more people from our chat. It's gotten unruly out there today for some reason. We're in our same normal time slot too, so I don't know what's going on today. But we apologize for the interruptions there, Tony. But it is
no problem.
So you are. Well, you guys just keep coming. So anyway, back to where we were at there. So you guys are obviously looking at doing your own systems. You're obviously looking at new shows, new ways to expand. And now you've kind of expanded into the Twitch space and into other places. Because I think what was interesting is that you guys did get it seems like your streaming start with Facebook. And we kind of talked a little bit about this earlier. And so have you found it hard now to branch into some of the other streaming areas, or are you finding that those fans are you finding new fans by trying to branch out into these areas? Or are you also doing just like a straight podcast, or are you strictly just Go ahead.
We have it on Google and iTunes. So we are doing the podcast, for just audio, and we have a good amount of traffic on there actually. But Facebook was the one thing we did primary. I wanted to attack one. And instead of doing them all, which I know a lot of people do Twitch and a lot of people do YouTube, but I was very familiar with Facebook, and I wanted to go after that. And we brought on a marketer on our team, Percival, who you might hear in the chat a bit, and he was kind of the same mind. Let's really dig into Facebook, just make it a home. And so we did that, and now we are starting to focus more on Twitch. We're building the Patreon out and focusing on more on YouTube, and we even just started attacking Mixer a little bit, trying to get in there and let people. So we see some of the people that are crossing over. They're already there. They prefer one platform or the other, but most of the people that are on Facebook are comfortable there, and they watch there. So we're happy. At the end of the day, we're playing tabletop in front of everybody, and they're getting involved, and we're involved, and we have a good time. So we're really happy with the way it's going.
All right. Well, I think from what I've seen, it's a fantastic show. Like I said, you got a really high production quality to what you're doing there, and that is really fantastic. It's an easy story, I think, to sit down and just kind of immediately get pulled into, and to watch these players, like I said, spend so much time just trying to figure out how they're going to handle this current situation that you've kind of thrown them all into. And
yes,
it is,
thank you. Yeah.
It's like I said, I see so much of how I know my group operates. We'll sit down for a session, and our DM, whatever our DMs put us up there in front of it, it doesn't matter what it is. Like I said, it's a lot of brainstorming and a lot of figuring that out.
Discussion sometimes.
And what that shows to me is the level of respect they have for the things they know that you're going to put into play, because they know that you're going to bring it to a degree. They're not just brazenly just walking into this thing like, we can take this thing, no problem. Like they're seriously taking time to plot. So do you find that that's what you want from them, to have that level of I guess puzzle solving, how they're going to handle the situation versus action?
We end up doing a lot of role playing, and there's times when they're going back and forth a lot. And I always worry about making sure that the fans are happy and they enjoy the engagement. So in those moments, I'll say, okay, hopefully people enjoy this, because it's role playing. But so far they have. It's never been a thing. I always ask and talk to people on the side, and they're like, oh no, we love that part, because they're almost home brainstorming with them. On the other side of it, when I'm in that position and not with that out of mind, I love when they're doing that, because if I don't have to DM and they're literally in game talking to each other, and I'm just sitting back and relaxing and watching, that's the best. I feel like I did a good job, because they're literally having conjecture about whatever's going on now, trying to solve the thing, talking in character, and I feel like that's the height of what I'm doing. That's the best I can do if they're engaged that hard about it. I've seen people yelling across the table to each other in game, and I think that's fantastic. You want it. It's funny. It's hilarious.
So how often?
Would you say that's your biggest passion too? Was that focus on? I know you do very often call out for roleplay at your table, and with even the way you were talking about the new system that you're developing, would you say that focus on character, is that one of the most important things for you? Because you seem like with your new system, you really want to make sure that everything that they're thinking of the bonuses kind of fits into their idea of who they are as a person and how they're developed.
Right. I went back and forth with the system and try to make because. A long time ago when I made a system many years ago, I made it that okay, it's very much just pick out and grab the ones you want to make, and you can make that character. It's kind of like a Skyrim kind of set to make the characters you play. And what I find is you turn into guy with sword and shield who casts magic, which is then the archetype is a problem. So Dungeons & Dragons, for me, which is what I played mostly, there's plenty of great D20 systems out there. Dungeons & Dragons is the one I played the most. But in Dungeons & Dragons, they set up the archetypes, and that's important because it does help you take the identity, and you need to take that identity and mold in there. But if you take musicians, if you take guitar players, every guitar player is dramatically different from every other guitar player. This guy shreds, this guy's more of in the box player, maybe this guy actually repairs guitars and he builds them, and this guy restrings guitars and he designs them completely from the neck up, whatever. So I wanted to make a system that takes in what they wanted to plan for their character, it supports their idea of the customization, and then allows them to expand upon it. But you still know what they are. You know what kind of character that they're creating. So I think it's really important, and that's those little. Again, 5th edition is fantastic. I love 5th edition, and just the things that I love because I want to customize even more. I just want to add in those things that I feel like can give a little more attention to here, there. That's what I try to do with the system.
So how often do the players give you the answer to the problem they're in? When you present them with this situation, like this mage tower of, like Death Star quality that it has, do you put it out there and let them toy around with it till they say something that clicks to you, like, oh yeah, that's the answer there? Or do you typically have kind of an idea of different ways they can take it down before they get to it?
Do I have a different way of doing that? Usually, you know what? So sometimes they come up with the idea, and if they're sitting around for like 10 minutes and they already have the idea, then maybe the NPC will be like, I think that was a good idea. Maybe you could be doing that. And he'll help them out a little bit. He'll say something, but I won't do anything to change what they're doing. I try to keep them in the middle about their ideas. If they're heavy on one side, no matter what it is, right or wrong, I try to balance them out and make sure that I try to leave them in the middle, knowing, oh, A and B both seem pretty good. So sometimes they walk in like, oh, A is the answer, and maybe they're right. So I'm like, but B is pretty good. B could be good. And like, oh, you want to choose B. And I'm like, but A was also great also. You never know. So I try to leave in the middle when I can. And if they get the answer and it can work, it's good. I usually make at least two ways to solve a situation or that current problem. But there's tons of times they make up like, 4 or 5 different things. And now with the audience too, they come up with different ways to solve a situation. And that's always awesome when they can. You can take apart Dungeons and Dragons a lot of different ways. You can take apart any DM style, and you may prefer a DM style over someone else for whatever reason. But to me, the most important thing is that we're here, we're having fun. If they have fun, and we get to tell a story, and you like the story and you're engaged, the rules are just there to support the fun and the social interaction that we're doing, and that's what's important. And there's a lot of tech around me because I love the tech. I want to be that guy pushing buttons around because it's fun to do that, of course. But the tech is here just to run the stream and do the special effects, and I try to minimize it as much as I can because at the end of the day, I'm doing a lot of things. There's just to turn the lights on and to put some music on and to put the map up, when needed and things like that. So it's just like all about the interaction, the role play, and anything I can do, even in +1s and all around the room, to try to put them more immersed and pull more into that setting. And I think that the story and the gameplay is the most important thing. That's why I always try to keep that.
And that, I think, really speaks well to this new wave of gamers coming in with 5e, because I think what we've seen out there is that 5e has brought in like a whole new generation of gamers that probably weren't there prior to 5e, and some of us who are adopting 5e, we're kind of, I think kind of still a minority now compared to this new wave of gamers that have come in. And it's with this new wave, they have that's very much the mentality I think that I see from them as I go from stream to stream, and I watch a lot of streams, I won't lie. They have that same, it's about that narrative, and the rules are just sort of there. And that's what 5e has done really, really well, I think, for that group of people coming in. And it's hard for them to go back and see older editions. They go back to like 3.5 and they're like, what are all these rules? So do you find yourself wishing though for a few of those old 3.5 rules back? I mean, is that the kind of, do you find that's true, that you're just not going to forget them? They're good?
Nah, you know what? When I made in a New Orleans Dungeon system, it's basically, I made a couple of hard choices, and I made it that there's a lot of situations where you can't even tackle a skill because you have no idea. Like you can't say, well, he's a thief, he can remove traps. I'm at least try and make an attempt at it. I've kind of just said no. And in 3rd edition, in 3.5, they had a thing where if you're trained in it, you're not trained in it, the +4 and a -4. Right. And I like that, but the sheet was extensive. If you like to customize, and I don't mind it. I like it. I like the fact that I have all these different, pluses and minuses. It's great. But at the end of the day, when you show me 5th edition, they did a great job, and it's simplified so much. Advantage and disadvantage are such a great tool to use, and it makes sense. It balances it out in a good way. And I think I think that 3rd edition got it right. 3.5 got it even better. And 5th edition was a much more mature version of 3.5.
It's definitely quicker.
Yeah, I agree. Streamlined.
It's definitely streamlined.
Easier to pick it.
It's like I'm saying before. It's like story is it. We're here for the story. So the book should help that. The book shouldn't hinder us and slow us down while you lose your entire feel. It's like the movie stops because you got to change the film. You get out of the mode. Right. So that's what 5th edition is doing, and it's doing a very good job of it.
Now, how do you handle when you get into these bigger combats can sometimes drag on. And maybe to a degree with 5th ed, a lot of times you're using your cantrips because that may be all you have about left. So every round's kind of, throw a cantrip, or this round, I swing again. Like, how do you keep the narrative flow going through combats when it's not a short, quick skirmish?
I feel that warlock shade, Dustin.
I feel I think I just try to. Sometimes I get wrapped up in what I'm doing, but a lot of times I try to just keep the flair going. So if they're attacking each other, I try to make sure I'm describing the battle to keep it going, because every time you visualize, you're in it. That's all it is. The theater of the mind is where I like to live the most, because sometimes the theater of the mind can produce results that graphic cards just simply cannot. So by imagination is used, and as long as I keep in the imagination, because people will roll the dice, but they're not seeing the dice, they're seeing their guys swinging in the air. So I try to just keep that alive as much as I can by things. And if I feel like I lost them, maybe I'll go back and I'll summarize the battle, what's going on, to kind of bring it back into it. And again, I'm always just trying to keep them in that flow.
Do you feel like there's anything you do that helps promote roleplay mid-battle?
Roleplay mid-battle? I don't feel like I do anything that would encourage roleplay mid-battle. I just try to keep it descriptive. That's basically what I do.
Just by keeping them limited to the 6 seconds and keeping them moving, you try to get through those rounds as quick as you can, so you're not giving people a lot of time for any exposition or any, what we like to call free socials.
Right, and I'm actually going to, probably in the next 2 weeks, I'm actually going to initialize a system that uses cards that's going to allow them to go even faster. It's going to make them commit to their decisions, what they're doing, and they're going to flip it over, and they're going to go. And if you don't have the card down when you go, then it's out. What that'll do is it honors the fact that you have no time. You're making decision after decision after decision in no time at all. It'll speed up gameplay a little bit. It also gives me more time to do flair and just flair, and not have to worry about rules about what we're doing. So I think the fast pace lends to the imagination staying in gear.
Are the players writing their own cards?
No, I'm gonna give them cards that says attack, spell, parry. Any kind of different action they're going to take.
I love that that's something that you never really think about, and I'd never even thought about it for D&D myself, because when you get to it's almost like as a game where you kind of regiment your mind. We have the combat aspect, and that kind of slows down. It's tactical and it's turn-based. Then you have the more the freewheeling improv of the actual narrative and role playing itself. And by approaching combat in that way and actually trying to no, it's 6 seconds. You gotta act on instinct, on impulse, and throwing that element in there. I'm really interested to see how that changes things up at your table. That sounds really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I think battling is awesome, and I think you have to try to make it as close to what as close as we can get as sitting at a table eating Cheetos.
Right? Yes.
Yeah. Right.
So what it would feel like to be involved in a battle. So at least the least thing I could do is just to make it fast paced. So fast paced. Keep it descriptive, make fast decisions, and I'll only give time for very certain things. Otherwise I'm counting them out. And I feel like a jerk when I'm doing it, but I know I have to do it because you have to keep it going. It's so important, I feel.
Yeah, no, I think it's true, because I always say that it's combat sometimes for me is the thing that brings me out of the game the most sometimes. Just because it does get so heavy sometimes into the X's and O's, especially if you're using battle maps and you're worried about tactical movements and stuff. Sometimes that get real heavy real quick.
It's because of the system. Battling is a lot of fun, And
sure.
As a dungeon master, sometimes I forget how much fun it is, because as a player, the few times I'm a player now, which is not many, I'll be in there and I'm thinking about how I want to attack and what I'm going to do, and if it's going slow to get to me, I'm bored. I'm just sitting there and I don't know what to do. I'm just waiting and just look over my sheep, and then that slows the game down, because what happened? I'm sitting back in my chair and I'm relaxing and I'm out, and and I don't want to be out and then back in. I want everyone in, and if you make a decision, you want to know that you're going to be up in 2 seconds. So it's really important for the flow. I think it's everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So with when you're going for flow, so have you gone away from actual battle maps then? Are you doing theater of the mind for that part? You have a map that you're using for your questing, where you're plotting out where they're going, but for the actual battle maps themselves, there's not maps there on the table where everyone can see, on the tables themselves, right? There's not.
Well, there's going to be soon. One of our sponsors is Fantasy Grounds, and I actually have it open right next to me over here.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah. So Fantasy Grounds is going to be implemented the software. I haven't done it yet because I'm we keep adding technology every single week, and I'm always upgrading, and I'm always seeing what I can do this, and then I'll add a cool flair to it. I've had a couple different sound effects I've added. Originally, I've been doing I'm also a songwriter, so I've been rewriting all the audio for the background so that we can take it to all the platforms. Some audio can only be used on YouTube, some audio can only be used on Facebook if you use from them, or you're getting it free, but you have to make sure sometimes it's free, but it's not really free. So I've been songwriting all of the audio to use with another songwriter and putting that together. So when I have everything done is when the last step for me, which I'm going to use the software for Fantasy Grounds because I don't want to slow the game up. And it's such a good software, especially if you don't know what's going on with Unity with Fantasy Grounds. It's really cool what they're doing. They're adding a lot of cool features, and I'm dying to use it. I can't wait to use it. I'm making sure that everything is done and ready to go before I put it. And I have the television in the middle of the table linked up and everything, and that's me. I'll put Fantasy Grounds out there. They'll move it, and then I'll be controlling Fantasy Grounds, which is another thing I have to do besides everything else. So that's why I'm making sure that I can get to it and give it the amount of attention that it needs, because Fantasy Grounds is amazing, and I'm so excited to use it in there.
Well, that sounds like that'll be really cool. It'll add like another element. Are you gonna have like the die rolls and stuff be visible to the audience at that point? Because I don't think currently we can see the die rolls.
Right now you can't. I probably would put it in there. I thought about it because I could even take out the health and make it so that the players will see their health and they only see the red and the green. They don't know what they're losing. So it'd be hard for them to read the screen and everything else. So to do that, I'd have to keep the text off. But then if I leave it in, people will be able to see the die rolls in there taking damage. So it's a question to see what's fun for the players and then what's fun for the audience. What slows it down and what keeps it going faster. I have to kind of figure it out, and I'm sure I'll play test it as we're doing it and tweak the elements as usually I do with everything. So I know we're definitely gonna be using Fantasy Grounds, but I don't know how much information I'll allow to them, because you watch a couple episodes. Do you wish you'd seen the rolls, or do you know when they're true when they go 20? Oh my god! And they freak out.
It's not a matter, I think, of ever knowing if the roll is true or not. I always assume that the rolls are true. I always assume there's nobody out there just making it up as they go. But no. I think sometimes, like, I know for us, like, it's weird. Like, we do use Roll20, but it's weird when I get to see Tim's die hit the screen, and I'm not looking at the box down there that's probably already shown the result, right? I'm busy watching that tiny little die bounce around on my screen, and then it rolls off with that 20 and onto the 2, and I'm like, no!
It does a good job of giving you that feeling of a real die roll, and as an audience, you can watch the die go around, and that is a fun aspect of it. I personally, though, for me, I love seeing the reactions and things like that. It doesn't bother me not seeing the die rolls, because the human element is what I'm all about.
I guess maybe I could put it in just for the DM rolls, so they can see the DM rolls. Everybody rolls here with their dice like that. But yeah, probably like a hybrid way of doing it would work out well.
No, you do have to be careful with the DM rolls. Are you there's a hot topic kind of out there right now, and I'll let you kind of chime in on how you fudging your dice. Do you? I mean, you don't have to tell us if you do or not. Obviously, trade secrets or. I don't. Oh, we lost you for a second. So that is one thing that you learn, though, when you start streaming, if you start doing your games on these other formats, is if you're rolling live, you can't fudge your rolls. They're right there.
I don't fudge. If I did fudge, Roz Mataro, who sits right next to me, constantly is like, does this. Like, he does it all the time. I go, Rob, was it a natural 20? He's like, 20. So he always checks on me, and I always laugh at him for doing that. But I don't care if is it a 1 or a 20. I'm happy. I like that it's exciting. I have fudge rolls when I was DMing earlier. I would say years ago, but I haven't fudged a roll in years. And I don't do it because I realized the reason why I would fudge rolls is because I would make stakes too high. And because it's fun to make it up with, like, okay, you're going to die if this happens. So when that happens, I either let them roll. I go, who wants to roll it? Dan, you want to roll it? And if they don't want to roll it, I'll roll right here in front of Rob. Because I think people will think I'm fudging it, so I just try to roll it in front of the player. But when I would make scenarios so hot, and so like they could lose their character, or something big could happen, the world could change dramatically. It would work a lot of times, but I would say maybe like 1 out of 5, something bad happens. Someone dies that that wasn't the right time for someone to die. If they could die at any time, but I don't want to make a situation that just like flat out kills them and then feel bad about it and have to pull it back. So I don't make those scenarios. I make scenarios where I could lose more and it's okay. And like, if you watch, Holgar actually died because of a situation like that. I said, the guys roll a 1d20 and roll a 1d4, which I thought was making it impossible. If anyone rolls a 1 on both, you die. And then Dan rolled a 1 and a 1 and died. I mean, the episode were up on our feet, like screaming, like no, but he died in a plot point that it was something supposed to happen, that it was available that if they used this item, which they did, save somebody else, it was going to bring everybody back there. And so it just brought him to the god earlier, and then they all came to the plot line. And I was like, well, he lives by default, So it worked out with the story, and it was kind of like the warning, like, guys, don't die again. I told him, I'm like, that was, if there were a second chance, you just got it. That was it, and that was it. So, but I don't fudge rolls. I don't think you need to. I just don't make the situations that gets you too high. And then once I started doing that, it got easier.
And kind of along those same lines, when it comes to players who just get really attached to a character, are you the type of DM who you'll kind of work out some way of like what they really used to want to play them, like maybe a relative or something like that? Or would you rather challenge your players to, see if you can come up with a brand new concept and we'll bring them in?
For character creation, as long as they take it seriously, which they do. New players come in, they try to make something funny, I don't allow that. You can't make something stupid, and then because then it's just a joke the whole time. You can make jokes in game. We make jokes all the time. We even go on tangents about old 80s TV shows, which happens every once in a while. And that's all fine as long as you do that, and they know we get back because they've been playing me for years. So like it's ha ha ha, and then we get back, or maybe a little longer, but we return. So I'm all up for whatever they want to make. If they want to make it something new, Vinny loves to make 40-page character sheets. Necromancer for 40 pages. It goes on and on with abilities. More power to him if he wants to do that. And someone else wants to make a straight fighter, so that's fine. As long as they make the character real, and they're attached to the character, because you will be attached as well as long as they are.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I think, I always approach character creation from a point of I want to take a concept that I know has been done, because I feel like sometimes it's really hard to come up with original concepts, but I always want to try to do it in a different way, like with a different class or something that it's ever been done with before, that's usually my approach. So I can see where I think what's important is that when the player is done with their character, that it's something that they love and that they're attached to, because then they'll role play it. And then they'll care about the actions. They'll care about what's going to be done. So I think that is kind of where you have to get it to, no matter I guess what system you're using or how you're going to approach doing it. Like that is, I think, ultimately has to be the goal.
Yeah. It's the character engagement and the characters' interaction with each other, with the DM, with NPCs, and you want to start on a good footing where they love it. They're excited about what they made. So it doesn't really matter what I think, because if they made a straight wizard and they're just excited about making a straight wizard, then that's it. That's what it is.
Now, do you get your players coming up to you with requests for like specific items that they want or specific spells for their spell books? And do you go through the minutia, figure that out, or they just take whatever's given and
they take it? Yeah. They take what I give them, damn it.
Do you spend a lot of time customizing loot? Do you do a lot of custom loot? Do you just roll straight from the tables?
So when they reach certain points of the quest, I will make all the loot from scratch. I make it brand new. I don't use anything that's in any of the books. And then sometimes, depending what they get, they have the ability to roll loot and get something much cooler. And then when they do that, then I'll go through a chart that I created, which will add in some magical items possibly, or pretty much junk, and whoever knows you would pick up. There's not a lot of time for loot. They usually spend a lot of time on the adventure and trying to live, which is kind of what I feel like would be kind of real. They're just trying to get by.
Right.
So, but at the same time, like if they encountered like the dwarves of Ironstone, like the city that was known for like crafting and such like that. So they were asking for stuff, and I was like, okay, what do you want? You want plate mail? You got it. Because you just saved their whole city. Why would they give out 6 pieces of armor? If you wanted it. So there's times when it's really giving to where they are, but then they go down and they go into hell, and you ain't finding any loot in hell unless you kill a guy for it. So it's just how it is.
Mm-hmm. So is that how you avoid the shopping episodes? You just keep them fearing for their life and moving, so they don't have time to shop. Is that like the secret to your success on that? Is that?
I always try to keep attention up. There's always a push. There's always a story push going on, and sometimes I'll stop that push. Rarely does it end on a happy note, but some episodes end on a happy note, and they're all like, "Oh, yeah, I felt good." I was like, "Yeah, it's because it ended happy today, not like what's going to happen next."
Mm-hmm.
But I always try to keep that tension up. But like right now, like they've been in the city right now, and like the first part of the battle went well, so they ended on a happy note, and they're in the city, but they know something's next. So that focus is always there, and that's important. I think that's one of the reasons for success for the Marvel franchise. How like in the beginning, you knew just by the rumor of mouth that people were saying that like, oh, they're all going to get together one day. And people were like, oh wow. So therefore, everyone's watching every single movie, besides the fact that you love Marvel, but for the fact of how are they going to get together. So that's that long arc, push is always in place, sitting there, and you need that there. It's very important. So that's why I always feel like you have to have the long arc, you have to have a medium arc, and you have to have a short arc always happening. I always try to keep them, filling most of those things, if not all.
Yeah,
so
that's
in a very narrative way, as well as just running the game itself, you got a lot of rods in the fire at all times.
Yeah, you just got to keep it going, keep it.
So yeah, it's an interesting way of designing your campaigns, because I've always felt that way about it too. I always felt that like with longer campaigns, I see a lot of people do shorter campaigns, and I particularly like shorter campaigns when I write, about 10, 12 sessions, like, shorter style games. But if you write longer ones, I feel like they tend to be structured a little more like how TV shows are, with one long arc for the season and then little minor 3-episode arcs that kind of chain together as they go along. Do you find that that's kind of how you loop yours, or is it more just the longer, longer medium and a short arc?
I get so annoyed at TV shows all the time because I feel like they're not paying attention to the arcs correctly. Take a show like Lost, which was a great show. I loved it when it was out, and but I felt like they would open up like 5 threads, of stuff that you're interested to know about. And I'm so hooked, especially the first season and into the second season with the hatch and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
But then they would answer like 1, and then raise another 5, and there were so many questions. And then if you leave us with so many questions at the end, that like what went on, that's not a very satisfying thing. So if I leave one, which I may or may not, depends how you watch it, that's me failing. I don't want to do that, or it's a thread that's going to go to the very end, and then I have to wrap it up. So I get annoyed if that happens. I usually wrap up all my threads because I pay attention to it. And I think if you do pay attention to it, I mean, doing a show is much harder than what I'm doing. I'm doing a show, but they're doing like something with a larger plot line, and they have to plan it out in advance.
Mm-hmm.
So more power to them, and they have a lot harder job than I do. But it is annoying as somebody watching it when that doesn't happen. So I do feel like that's very important correctly. I make sure it's always there. And I think it's important for storytelling. You need that pressure.
Now, with everything you have going on, the way you're running your game as a DM with all the tech, everything else, do you take pretty meticulous notes? You can't hardly do it while you're running. You already have so much else going on. So do you go back and watch all your episodes and take meticulous notes, or do you have somebody there who's wrote them down for you? Like, do you have an assistant?
I go back. There's editors on staff, and they edit through the episodes. There's a marketing crew, and they go through stuff. And when I'm going through stuff, if I notice something that I've forgotten, I write it down, because sometimes I'll forget an NPC from like, the first season or whatever. Like right now, I remember everything that happened from day one, and there's an NPC in I think episode 14 that I can't remember his name, and there's a guy from the first season that I can't remember his name either. And so there's little things that I'll forget sometimes, but I try to keep it. I think I delve over it so much that it just stays current in my brain, and that's why my fiance will basically be like, Tony, I'm not paying attention, because my brain is elsewhere. And so I just keep memory, and if I need to write it down, I'll write it down. But usually when I write it down, it puts it back into my head, and then I'll get it. If I really forget like a numbers thing, I'll go back and I'll just say, okay, well there's more than 100 guys here. There's about 100 something guys here. I don't have to be the exact count. If it mattered, I'd have to go back to the episode and watch. If I do watch, I'll watch something that I thought was really funny, or something I thought was just like really entertaining. In one episode, I got up, I turned the lights off, and I was trying to look like I was like something out of Stranger Things, and I was like, looking very empowering, and I just wanted to see how it looked, because I'm doing it, I'm standing up, and I sat back down actually. You see it in it's like episode. It's one of the last episodes in season 1. It might even be the last one. But I get up and I sit back. I'm about to sit back down, and I go, "What am I doing? I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to be crazy. I'm going to go all out crazy. I'm already on a tabletop TV show right now, so I'm just going to commit to it and go for it." And then later on, I watched it. I thought it was funny, just to watch it.
That's awesome.
It's good to have that reinforcement of what you were picturing in your mind's eye. Like
You'll see me. I think you see it. I get back down, and then I just get right back up. I'm like, nah.
That's awesome. Do you find that you go back and watch the critique yourself at all when you stream? Like, because it's one thing when you're doing it and you're seeing the players, because you're actually getting to play at a table with people, which I envy completely. Me and my friends, we have to play over a system like this with my microphones, my headsets. Like, you know, this is the world we're mostly refined to, unfortunately, because of time, distance, and having to be adults and all that sort of stuff. But you are blessed enough to get to sit in the room with your players every week, and you get to see their reactions mostly. But do you go back and look to see how that looks like from a viewer standpoint? Do you mentally try to critique yourself and think about how that is portraying like things you don't realize you did prior to streaming?
I did at the beginning. I went back a lot because I wanted to make sure I was checking myself, and I talk very fast, so I make sure that I'm talking slower. I find something about the headset makes me slow down because I talk faster than this, and I'll watch that, make sure that I'm clear, make sure I'm concise. If I make a decision, I make sure I might go back and look at it and say like, oh, how I handled that thing. But more now, I go back for moments. You know, unless it was a technical problem, I'll go back and check it out. We had a technical problem last week. It was just the audio was wavering, and I found it was just a wire was being clipped here, and that's all it was. But I can't. In the moment, I couldn't figure it out. So I'll go back to stuff like that. So, but I did in the beginning. I did do a lot of checking. I check less now because I just you get familiar with yourself and how it's coming.
All right. Well, that is, like I said, I could see how you could have a wire issue. It looks like you just take a step down, you'd accidentally kick one there, but
yeah, looks like a Dungeons and Dragons trap down there.
Yeah, it does. It does look like a little like gauntlet. I might put it in the
what's the DC of the Dex check to get into the chair at that point? Are you looking at a?
Oh my god, I fail it all the time. I don't make that DC. Nope.
All right. Well, we're starting to push up here towards the 11:45 mark. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit again. So you guys are Wednesday nights, and what time is it that Audio Dungeon comes on?
So we're Wednesday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then we go on to about 11 o'clock, or almost 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and we do it every Wednesday. And then in the future, we're testing out some shows right now, which looks like it's going to go through. And we're going to start doing a show called Digital Dungeon, which will be Mondays at 8:30, same time. And that will be the show where we're trying to combine video games and tabletop together, just for the fun of it.
That sounds kind of cool.
So it's not the same world as of Celestial War and Daria. It's just one-offs, just to see how fun they are. And it's a different crew. People will be switching in, switching out. And that's a lot of fun too. So yeah, Mondays and Wednesdays 8:30 p.m. But the main question we're talking about is 8:30 p.m. And then if you head over to YouTube, you can catch a lot of the mini games. You can catch a lot of the quests from the beginning. We're adding more and more quests right now. As episodes 1 through 16 is there. I go back and I keep editing the quests and keep layering in there and keep adding them on. That'll keep happening. But you can also go to Facebook and catch it on from like episode 11 all the way to the end of the day. But yeah, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesdays.
All right. Well, that is amazing. Again, watched a few episodes since our mutual friend Leopold the Just. He came to me and was like, "Hey, there's a show you've got." We had him on the show during season 1 here of the Wisdom Check. We had him on for an episode, and since then, he's done a lot of work with Fantasy Grounds with you guys, everything else. And he finally was like, "Hey, you got to come check this show out." So I did. I am unfortunately late to the party as far as Audio Dungeon goes, but I have been.
Oh yeah, me too.
Been going back and trying to catch a few episodes, and trying to get caught up on what's going on with it, so I can start watching going forward. And it's a fantastic show. I fell in love with the mini games. I mean, oh my god, I binged like 2 hours of the mini games one time somehow. Like I just put them on, started listening to it, and the next thing I know, I've been watching them for way longer than I intended to. So I think they're all fascinating. I think it's the level of improv and stuff you guys do is fantastic. The job you have to do almost as a conductor of that whole program is amazing.
Mind-boggling.
Mind-boggling.
We have a lot of fun playing the show. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. We have so much fun playing the shows, and we love to hear that people are enjoying them. We just have a blast playing them. They're easy to do because it's just fun. So it's great to hear that people are enjoying them. Yeah.
And we completely appreciate you taking time. I know you were shooting right before you came on here, so it was great that we got to kind of see everyone else from the crew here with you tonight, and that you took time to come here and show us your complete tech setup. talk a bit about your storylines, what you got in this world, the system that maybe we can look forward to seeing come out at some point. I think that sounds like amazingly fun stuff. And
exciting 2020 on the horizon.
We love testing. We love testing out stuff here too. So you get that thing put out in a book form, whatever. That thing goes up on Kickstarter. We'll probably find it and get our grubby hands on it and try it out as well.
Awesome.
We love doing that sort of stuff around here. So you're always welcome back again some other time, Tony. In the meantime, Tim, thank you also for stepping in tonight for Jeff and help fill in our.
Good to be here, Dustin.
Help fill in our.
Good job, man.
Our official work we got to do here. So for a little bit of an outro here, we got to talk a little bit about what's going on here at TT2KB for the next week. Wednesday night, Tim and the rest of the guys minus me are going to be playing 7 Days to Die Wednesday. So if you haven't been checking out...
It won't take 7 days.
It won't take 7 days. Nope. I still got my Live Longer Than Cam trophy. Very proud of it. I'm horrible at those survival games. But you can catch us Wednesday night. Well, you won't catch me. You catch them Wednesday night. I'm going to be gone tomorrow night. After I get out of work, I'm leaving, heading to Chicago. Me and the wife are taking a 3-day getaway to Vegas, so I'll be in Vegas for the next 3 days. So my normal Thursday night game, Terror and Treefell, which is ran by the Zweihander RPG, you will not find it this Thursday. Maybe I'll convince one of the guys to load up reruns for that day. You'll be able to find some of the reruns of the past sessions on there. All of our content is on YouTube at TableTop, spelled out 2 keyboard. You can find all of our past episodes of the Wisdom Check, minus this one, because it'll take Jeff a few days to get this one up and on there, but it'll be there and join all the rest of them soon enough. And Everstorm returns in 2 weeks for the next game, which Levi has not yet titled, but I'm sure we'll get one soon enough for that. I don't think we have next week here, the Wisdom Check. Again, 10, I will be back by then from Vegas. And I believe Jen Kretschmer is our guest next week. So you'll be able to tune back in here at 10 p.m. Central Time again for another episode of the Wisdom Check. And we will catch you guys then. I guess signing out, is there anything else, Tony, you want to say before we go?
That's pretty much it. It's Audio Dungeon. It's theaudiodungeon.com. And you pretty much can find us at Audio Dungeon on Facebook, which is the primary platform to engage with us. So yeah, check us out.
And everyone's got a Facebook, right? So
absolutely, and thank you so much for having me on the show. I appreciate it so much. We had a lot of fun.
We do appreciate you taking time to come here. It's been great to, like I said, to catch what you do, and I think it's fantastic, and definitely going to check more of it out. So
thank you.
All right, everybody, please check out Audio Dungeon. They're awesome.
Thank you to our stream team for showing up tonight. I saw many of them out there, Liching Hour, Air Laser, The Grouch Couch. You guys are fantastic. Thank you, J Brews, for the raid. I saw the raid come in. Thank you to the moderators for dealing with the unruly chat people we had in our chat tonight. I do not know what up is that, but we will find the people responsible and have them flogged later. In the meantime, we'll catch you all next week.